Good morning, everyone. In the last 12 to 18 months, I think we've all come across this question. How is AI making an impact to our business? Right? Uh, and I hope we have a better answer than this. And when AI does live up to its potential and it frees up some of our time, what are we going to do with that time? Are we going to deal with the issues of AI? I hope not. I hope there is a better way, and that's the reason why all of you are here. Right? My name is Vishal Laad. I'm leading analytics data management practices at Infoceps. Infoceps is a data and AI solution provider which has been in this business for 20 years. We are working for category leaders in retail, media, financial services, life sciences, and manufacturing. So when we talk of AI, I hear terms like, neural networks, deep learning. But for me, I would like to keep it a little simple, and I would ask the question, what are we really using AI for, right? And it boils down to making a prediction. For example, if I'm looking at a credit card transaction, can I predict whether it's fraudulent or not, right? So whether it's the next word in the sentence in an email or a next best offer, it is a form of prediction. Now, when we talk of AI within our organizations, we have to start by asking, how does it make difference to our business, right? How do we embed AI for business benefits? And I look at AI in three categories. First one is semantic AI. This has been popularized by Gen AI. We all know that. And then there is discriminative AI, which allows us to classify data, information, find relationship between input features and outcomes. And there's a lot of scope, and there's a lot of uncharted territory there yet to be achieved. And then there are logic-based systems. So these are the digital systems we've been using for several years. And over those years, multiple business rules have been created by human experts. And that's the logic base on which a large part of our business is running today. I would call that as AI too, right? But all AI is not equal. If you look at the dimension of uncertainty, semantic AI is highly uncertain. And that's where we have concerns about hallucination, for example. Right? But when we look at dimensions of novelty, of course, none of us want to miss out on this Gen AI wave. Right? But when we talk to leaders, sponsors, and talk about ideas for innovation through AI, if the uncertainty is high, the acceptance for our ideas may be low. Right? So how do we deal with that? If we can make a form of prediction, then of course it gives us some kind of competitive advantage. And all of you have seen this visual of the analytics maturity map in some shape or form. But what has changed, right? What has changed is that the cost of prediction has gone significantly down. And that is allowing organizations, which are not necessarily the Netflixes and Amazons of the world, to take advantage of this new capability. Right? If I look at the last 15 years, there are like 3 transformations we can talk about. The first one is cloud-enabled, which gave us agility. And so we took advantage of that. We built a lot of digital systems. We digitized our processes. And that created a whole bunch of new data. Right? And then we went through waves of data modernization to build a modern data stack. Right? But if I look at the next 3 to 5 years, I would call that will be in a wave of AI-enabled transformation. Every organization will go through that AI-enabled transformations. Those who don't are likely to be left behind. So how do we differentiate with AI? Right? There's a lot of thought leadership pieces around this. I would like to draw your attention to this particular book by Thomas and Jean. They put some solid arguments about how to derive success from this. Right? So what they did is they've studied a lot of companies, and they've identified these 4 critical attributes of successful companies. One, they have a distinctive capability. It could be a innovative product design. It could be superior customer experience. They have enterprise-wide scope. So when you interact as a customer with any of their business functions, could be sales, marketing, customer service, they have your customer master behind the scenes. They have total leadership commitment because ultimately deriving value from AI requires alignment of people, processes, change management, and cultural change. And then they all have large-scale ambitions, which are big enough to create a real, meaningful business impact. So let me ask this question. How many of you, in a show of hand would help, you think that there is a very clearly articulated vision about data and analytics in your organizations? Okay. Okay, that answers, and that's we have to ask the question why that is the case, right? Because without that clarity, it's hard to bring about alignment. So we as Infoceps, when we look at our customers, we help them diagnose their current state of data and AI. And for us, the North Star is business value, right? So if you look at organizations, over the years, they've invested in data analytics, they've built products, people, capabilities. But I would urge you to ask these 4 fundamental questions. First one is, what are the business capabilities for use, and are they relevant? Second, are these capabilities being used, or have they become shelfware? Are we thinking differently about AI? And lastly, have we aligned resources to meet those aspirations? So in your organizations, you need to find a way to do this comprehensive assessment and come up with a number or a score which will give you the state of AI in your company, right? And like this, something like this. And just like I would recommend that we do this once in a year, just like we do our annual health checkup, right? The questions would be the same, but our conditions might have changed, or the market conditions might have changed. Now let's go a little deeper into the AI mindset part, right? If you ask ChatGPT a question in 2 different ways, you're likely to get 2 different responses. They may mean the same thing, but there is no guarantee that you will get the same response. And executives have a very hard time dealing with that or accepting that because they are looking for certainty, right? So when we think of creating value through AI, what are some of the ways we can do that? We could think it in terms of improving customer engagement. Or we could think in terms of improving efficiencies in our business operations. Could be sales, marketing. Or we could solidify our production systems, right? And then how do we assess our current state? There are a number of ways you can do that. You can ask these questions. Here are a few. You should ask these questions, and you should ask them often. And that's my recommendation. And for AI, for us to be successful in AI, I think we have to be open to experimentation because of this non-deterministic nature. Let me give an example. So we have seen cars with gasoline replaced or retrofitted by propane tanks. It has helped reduce air pollution in a lot of geographies and countries, but it has not fundamentally changed the driving experience, right? And then, of course, we know the Nextla story, which has completely reimagining the driving experience, right? Let me take a second example, which is more closer to data and analytics. So we have all built dashboards for us, for our teams, for our leaders, for our clients. And now we have Copilot capabilities, right? So the question to be asked is, do we use Copilot to build the same dashboard, but better, cheaper, faster? Or do we ask a more fundamental question? Do I even need that dashboard? Right? So this is an example of how we can think differently about using AI and influencing others to use AI more effectively. I do believe that organizations that transform workflows with AI are more likely to succeed than those which are going to use AI for incremental benefits, right? And when we think about that, we look at, once we have our objectives defined, we design our models, we make some choices, and then we worry about how those models or the predictions from those models are going to be used by people in sales, marketing, operations, right? And of course, we have to do all of this in a very responsible way. But when we think of AI, the modeling piece actually is only 5 to 10% of the effort, right? The other 20% is about software and application engineering around it. And the vast 70% is about dealing with the data mess and people and process and change management. right? So there's good news. Good news is, McKinsey is suggesting that AI adoption has gone up. There are statistics to suggest the same thing. But there is a study from Gartner which came about exactly the same time, which says nearly more than half of the enterprises are likely to abandon their initiatives, right? Because of cost, lack of adoption, or the risk or issues created by AI. Why is that the case, right? If you look at our own organizations, we would say that, I would say that most of us would have enterprise data capabilities in some shape or form, right? These are some of the enterprise data capabilities. And the business is residing in the business functions, and they are dealing with systems of management, core systems like Manhattan in retail, Fiserv in financial services. There's a lot of collaboration happening. There's a lot of digital systems through which we interact with our customers, right? But when we talk to business leaders, we repeatedly get this message that they are not seeing the value out of the systems of insights, and then so that means there is a real gap, right? Even a lot of surveys over the years have suggested exactly the same thing. So why there is this gap? And there could be many reasons for this, but I think these are the four most prominent ones. So what we really need is a way for us to connect the system of insights and recommendations more effectively with systems where business action is actually taking place. So we know it's not easy. So when you undertake your next AI initiative, I would urge you to ask these 6 fundamental questions, right? And let's take an example. Let's say we're trying to improve win rates in our sales funnel, right? And that's the right business problem to solve. We have a solid business case for that. But does my data have signals? Is it able to give me meaningful insights? Is it allowing me to make more effective predictions, right? And then once I do build an optimal model, are the people, in this case, the sales people, are they going to actually use that prediction in the systems that they use, like in this case, maybe Salesforce, or will they fall back on intuition and experience, right? And if I get all of that right, how do I measure success for my AI initiatives, right? So these are the 6 fundamental questions that we should ask for, any AI initiative. Let's come back to this transforming workflows. And here's the big idea for you. And if there's one takeaway, it is this. For you to be successful in AI, you need to think about decoupling your systems of experimentation on AI with the system of implementation, right? And you need to have a layer of measuring success on top of that. Let me double click on that to explain what I mean by that. So if you look at operationalizing AI, what does it really mean, right? I would say that what it means is you're bringing together people, processes, data, and systems. And these are systems where action is actually taking place, the Salesforce of the world, right? You're bringing all of that together, and that's how you operationalize AI. And when you implement use cases, those use cases will be verticalized by business functions, right? But all of that has to rest on a solid foundation, and that foundation is your system of experimentation. This is that single pane of glass through which you are able to look at every AI use case from conception all the way to decommissioning, right? And then you are able to make very specific interventions. For example, in executing any particular use case, if you find skill gap, then you can bring that cross-functional capacity to address that. Okay? And then you have foundational components. So for example, when you have to integrate predictions with something like Salesforce, do I have those foundation components to deliver those? So the combination of these two, decoupled system of experimentation and implementation, will help us realize the value that we aspire for. So let me give you a case study, a walkthrough of how we have done this for a commercial bank at Infosys. So for this bank, these are some of the use cases, and there are many more in the pipeline that we've tried to address. And I'll take one example, which is customer churn. So we start with a strategic tool like the AI Canvas, right? And we try to bring clarity and alignment by asking some very core questions. Why are we doing this, right? What is the cost of not doing this? If we do get a prediction, how will we act on it? And then what is the intended outcome behind the scenes, right? if this is your hypothesis and you are making this hypothesis basis some assumptions, you need that system of experimentation to test that hypothesis out, which will also tell you, is your data ready? Is it of high quality? Right? And then it will also bring in elements of responsible, explainable AI, which is very crucial to deal with the issues of AI once you implement it. So once we did that, we get to a view like this, where we are able to make predictions on which of the customers are likely to churn, right? And you can see that the risk is stratified by simply high, medium, low. And then for every customer, we have a churn probability score. But more importantly, we also have a churn cost, which tells us what is the cost of not acting on this, right? So we spoke about transforming workflows with AI. These predictions have to then go to the personas who will actually act on it, right? In this case, it will be a customer relationship manager in a bank. So they get a view like this, and they know specifically what intervention they have to make for this particular, to retain this individual. But one of the challenges with AI is that it's a black box, right? So you need an element of explainability to say, if my AI model is making a certain prediction, why is that the case? What are some of the fundamental reasons? So in this case, you're taking advantage of local explainability to give specific reasons on why this customer is likely to churn. And then you're using your recommendation systems, and you're also using the power of LLM in your own context to come up with recommendations in very simple English natural language, right? So that the customer relationship manager can actually act on it, right? But we know that in large organizations, it's not just one persona who will use predictions. There will be others. For example, there will be this campaign manager who will want to make an intervention or an outreach through, in this case, emails. And then he or she knows what specific messages to deliver to those individual customers because of the predictions we have made and the explainability we have derived. Right? And then ultimately, we cannot forget the end customer, right? So we have this view of the end customer that when they log into their digital banking app or the website, they see a personalized message. And they see a call to action. And when you bring it all together, this is an example of how we are transforming workflows with AI, with predictable success, right? So how we were able to do that is, again, I go back to this visual. At Infosys, we have invested in building two core capabilities. One is Discovery AI, which is your system of experimentation. And another one is Decision 360, which is meant to be a system of insight and action to help implementations. Right? So this is Discovery AI. This is our fully managed system of AI experimentation and governance. Like I said, in the example of the commercial bank, this is a system which allows us to test our hypothesis, validate our assumptions, check our data readiness, and bring in those crucial elements of explainability, responsible AI before it is ready to be implemented. And then you have this Decision 360, which is a platform of insights and action. It's creating a virtuous circle by bringing insights, predictions, and actions together, and ensuring that predictions are used by people in systems of action when they really need it. And then it goes a step further. It helps you measuring success of these AI initiatives with OKR framework, objectives, and key results. So with that, I'll end. If you want to know more about these capabilities, feel free to visit our booth and register for a demonstration. Thank you so much. Appreciate you listening to me. Thank you.